So the medulla oblongata also carries a fourth ventricle which is connected with the third ventricle with the help of the iter, and then it is connected to the spinal cord's cavity. Remember, I told you that initially itself that the whole central neural system carries a cavity inside. So even the spinal cord carries a cavity. That cavity is linked with the brain's cavity with the help of three holes. Those holes are two lateral holes are called as the foramen of Luschka, and the central one is called as the foramen of Megendie. Now the most of the sensory and the motor nerve tracts cross over to the other side in the medulla oblongata. I told you a few minutes back that one side of brain controls the other side. So the reason comes here. The reason is that the sensory and the motor nerves which start from the one side of the body cross over to the other side of the body in the medulla oblongata region. So in the medulla oblongata this crossover takes place, because of which the right side of body of the brain controls the left side as well as the vice versa. Now the function of this portion is that it controls the involuntary movement control centers. So the involuntary movement control centers, the respiratory center, cardiac control center, swallowing, vomiting, peristalsis, coughing, sneezing, salivation, etc. they all are controlled by the medulla oblongata, and it also carries the center for the vasomotor activities, that mean dilation as well as for constriction. Now remember, there is something called as pons also, and pons is called also as the pons varuli or pons bridge, and when we go through the other books we will read that pons plus cerebellum, that means apencephalon, together these are called as metencephalon. So the pons varuli connects the cerebellum and cerebellum along with the medulla and spinal cord. So all these connections are made with the help of pons. It acts like a relay center, so the transmission occurs through the pons to the various parts of the brain, and it has the pneumotaxic center which we have already covered in the breathing chapter, the 17th chapter. Now what is brainstem? We have learned from the NCERT, brainstem is the midbrain and the hindbrain. Let's read from the notes also. So the part of the brain between the spinal cord and the thalamus. So the part between the spinal cord and the thalamus is called as the brainstem. It is made up of medulla oblongata, pons varuli, midbrain, and some authors consider diencephalon also a part of the brainstem, and some consider it not to be a part of the brainstem. So basically it is made up of midbrain and major portions of the hindbrain. Now there is a fluid present inside which I kept talking about. Let's learn something about it. So that fluid present in there is called as the cerebrospinal fluid, which is also called as CSF. This is a clear colorless fluid in the interior and exterior of the CNS, that means the brain and the spinal cord. Its pH is somewhere around 7.3, so it is slightly alkaline in nature, and is present in the ventricles of brain, and is also present in the central canal of the spinal cord. I told you there is a cavity even in the spinal cord. That cavity is called as the central canal. It is also found in the subarachnoid space of the meninges, if you recollect from the meninges topic. And then remember, all other spaces in the meninges will have another fluid. It is not the cerebrospinal fluid. Only the subarachnoid space carries the cerebrospinal fluid. Then its volume is 80 to 150 ml, and it is filtered out from blood in the anterior choroid plexus. I have already discussed this point with you, that the roof of the thalamus, that is the epithalamus, is fused with the pia mater and forms the anterior choroid plexus. And the second one, it links with the medulla and is called as the posterior choroid plexus. So the pia mater is again linked with the medulla oblongata, and there it forms a plexus again which is called as the posterior choroid plexus. Plexus means network, and passes back into it. It contains the proteins. So cerebrospinal fluid is rich in proteins, amino acids, glucose, respiratory gases, urea, sodium ion, potassium ion, calcium ion, chloride, bicarbonates, etc. The importance of the cerebrospinal fluid is to moisten the central nervous system, maintain the constant internal pressure, provide buoyancy, because of which the brain, which is quite heavy, for 1.4 kilogram, it seems to be just 0.18 kilograms. So light it becomes because of the buoyancy provided by this fluid. Then external shock absorber, it even help in passing out the hormones from the brain into the blood, and to pick up the oxygen and food from the blood, and it even passes carbon dioxide and urea to the blood. Now the next thing to understand are the unique features of the human brain. So how human brain is different from other animals. So the human brain is solid. It has solid small olfactory lobes. I already told you in other animals you will find there is a cavity in the olfactory lobes which is called as rhinocele and is the seat of olfaction or smell. But in the case of human brain, they are solid and the cavity is absent. Rhinocele is absent. Second point, large size cerebral hemispheres. So human has the largest of the cerebral hemispheres. That's why we have different powers developed, and we have lost these basic powers like smell. Then we have the gyri, which are the elevations to increase surface area of the cortex. We have the corpus callosum, which joins the two cerebral hemispheres together. And then we have a small pineal body. We'll be talking about this in the next chapter. It's a gland. And then the cerebral hemispheres are divisible into 4 lobes: the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobes. Then we have the mammillary bodies present in the hypothalamus, and then we have the solid cerebellum, and there are 3 parts of the cerebellum we have discussed already. That is the 2 lateral cerebellar hemispheres and the central median portion called as the vermis. And then the white matter is present inside the grey matter in the cerebellum in the form of a tree-like structure called as arbor vitae. And then pons varolii is present in the human brain, and 3 meninges are present to provide protection to the human brains. These are the unique features which are present in the human brain.